Hey guys, it's coreross and welcome to this video where we're going to do a little bit of Rainbow Six Siege theory crafting. So today we're talking about the training that the Rainbow Six Siege operators are doing that we call multiplayer. So what we do every day when we're playing Rainbow Six Siege is actually in the canon of Rainbow Six Siege's story. And the 2020 Road to SI event actually gives us some backstory on how the simulated combat for Siege actually works. So this here is a message from Mira to Harry talking about the new stadium map and how she's set up how it's going to work. So all the operators wear a sim suit, and this is their underlying first layer of clothes, and it's worn underneath all their combat gear and stuff like that. And what it does is it simulates damage. So it knows if you got hit in the chest by what weapon, it knows if you got hit in the head and insta-killed, and as such you'll become immobilized if that is the case. Then it will also let you know when the enemy team moves far enough away that you can actually stand up and walk out of the map and then go sit down in kind of a holding area because you're a dead player, but you can get on your cameras at that point and then help your other team members. So this is how Siege's multiplayer has now become canon. So it's actually become part of the story. And this kind of stuff has always been really interesting to me. I actually made a video, and it was a long time ago now. It was back in January 2017. And the original reason I actually made the video was because a lot of people thought the defenders were bad guys. They thought, they're obviously got hostages all the time, they've got bombs all the time, so it always looks like the attackers are the good guys. They're coming in defusing bombs, they're coming in and rescuing hostages, so obviously the defenders must be the bad guys. But I was like, no, they're all Rainbow Six. And I think we've got to the point now where we definitely all know that, but back then it wasn't so clear. And of course there wasn't really any story back then. And in that video I theorized about how the multiplayer might actually be just the Rainbow Six Siege operators training, because the best way to get better at something is to go and compete against the best of the best. So if you keep competing against the best, then all of you are going to improve and improve and improve. And the way it works for me, I think, is that attackers are people that go out and can breach in and rescue a hostage or defuse bombs. That's their speciality. Defenders are asset protection, so they're like defending VIPs. They're defending bombs that may have been found but not yet detonated, because they've got to protect them to make sure no one comes back and detonates them, for instance. Or they have to protect biohazard material before it can be then safely disposed of. So anyway, back then that video was basically just fan fiction, but it looks like we're now starting to see the story of that actually come through. So we now have kind of this build up, and I've been seeing it all over last year. So last year there was a lot of little elements, like Mira would do little reports to Harry in the blog posts that would reveal the new operator's gadgets, and she'd always finish it off with like, how is this going to change our training sessions and stuff like that? How will this change our dynamics? And it's kind of cool to see that it is all part of the story. So back to the actual simulation and how it works. The other thing Mira goes over about is the actual rounds that are used instead of live ammunition. So Mira talks about these rounds, and they kind of sound like basically blanks, but they actually do fire something. So what they are is simulated rounds, and also the explosives are simulated. I don't know how you make it a simulated explosion that can pick a hole in a wall but won't kill someone. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. So you've got simulated rounds that will detonate in white smoke when they're used. Now we've actually seen this now. We can actually see Hibana on a training ground, and she's firing these rounds that are blown up into a white dust. And we can also see one of the shells coming out that is obviously not a normal shell for a bullet, and this is our non-lethal rounds. So I would expect if you got shot in the eye, I could definitely see your eye getting taken out with one of these things. So hopefully all the operators wear eye protection. But yeah, the idea is that these bullets just disintegrate immediately when they hit you, but it'll still hurt, which of course is a good thing for military training. You still want things to hurt because that is the best way to learn. And over year 4, I've been monitoring a lot of the different things that have been kind of ticking boxes for me when it comes to these kind of theories I've been making up over the years. And one of them is from a previous teaser trailer, and it was for Kali and Wamai, because Mira says this.
That's going to sting.
Now, of course, you wouldn't say that this sniper rifle is going to sting. You would think that it's going to put a hole in you, so you're either going to die or it's going to be extraordinarily painful. It's not going to sting unless, of course, you're using simulated rounds. And I think things like this show that the devs and the people behind the story have been injecting this into the content over time, obviously with the plan of bringing it all to a full story by this 6th Invitational and then following on with a year-long story after that. So it's shown us that it's a real world. And what I do really love about this is you can actually bring everything into the canon because of this. You can bring in hit detection issues. You can bring in lag. You can bring in all kinds of bugs like raptor legs and stuff like that, because you can say that before they actually went with this kind of simulation, they maybe had something that was more like AR based or VR based. As such, you could have maybe had hit detection issues, you could have had problems with the raptor legs and stuff. You can actually write that all in as story and as canon to the Siege universe, which I think is really, really cool. And you don't even have to stop there as well. You can go as far as actually bringing balancing changes in and even the special events. So because this is military training, you want the operators to, struggle every single round. You want them to be at their limit all the time. So taking Jaeger's ACOG away is actually part of the canon because they wanted him to have a harder time so that he'd be able to improve, instead of making it so that he might be too good and make it just too easy for him where he doesn't improve. Then, of course, with the special events, like we see the April Fool's event, we've seen the Halloween event, they could all be canonized as well, because you can have AR goggles in this universe that changes how things look. So you can have a Chachanka wearing a unicorn outfit just because that can be done. And something like the Halloween event could have been Harry coming up with a fun idea because maybe the operators didn't have enough upper body strength and he wanted them to work on improving that, so he gives everyone a hammer and says you got to hit everyone instead of actually shooting them. And then of course for the defenders, they were not being good enough at being silent, so they had to come up with a way to make them invisible in order to then make it so the operators had to focus on sound and then improve their sound. All this stuff can start playing into it, which I love. Oh yeah, and don't forget, Harry has to fund all this, so the Netflix integrations are canon as well. Oh crap. So anyway, just like my video back then, it doesn't change how Rainbow Six Siege is played, it doesn't change your everyday play of the game, but I think it's cool that there's more depth to the game than there was when it launched. Of course, when it launched, it was very much just multiplayer, there was no story whatsoever, and when I made that video back then, I was not confident about it. I actually chatted with Prodigio Pete, and he brought it up a couple months ago, and he was like, yeah, they weren't very confident about that video, but it was like, it was your first foray into doing their theory kind of videos. And I was like, yeah. And the reason I wasn't very confident about it because there was literally nothing to go on. It was purely bringing stuff together in more of a fan fiction way than proper theorizing. But it's cool that it's kind of getting towards that way, and that's a sweet thing to see happen to Siege. And I like the depth being added to the game and potential of then story to follow after that. So anyway guys, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments below, does this matter to you in any way? Like, you just want to play the game and have fun, you don't care about any of the story elements, and what's your greatest dreams if this is something you do enjoy? Do you want this to lead to a full-on single-player campaign or a cooperative campaign, or even a full spin-off game that is a story-driven game, no multiplayer, no competitive, all single-player or cooperative? You want just a full-on story to dig your teeth into. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.